Tansei, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. An update now from Saskatchewan RCMP on the incident in George Gordon First Nation that happened earlier this week. On Tuesday morning at around 8:30 a.m., Punashai RCMP received a report of an injured female outside a home in George Gordon. RCMP says an altercation occurred between an adult female and an adult male who was armed with a firearm. During the altercation, the firearm was discharged and the male left the scene on foot. The female was transported to hospital by Stars Air Ambulance with a serious gunshot injury. RCMP later located the man in a wooded area when he attempted to flee. However, he was caught and arrested a short time later. With the help of a police dog, a firearm and ammunition was located and seized. 24-year-old Xavier Worm from Regina has been charged with attempted murder, discharge of a firearm with intent, possession of a prohibited firearm without authorization, and resisting a peace officer. Worm made his first court appearance on Wednesday in Regina Provincial Court. The investigation continues this week. The federal government has announced it's spending millions of dollars on Indigenous and rural Alberta business developments. Nearly $6 million will go towards 7 projects. Some of those projects include $2 million to the Louis Bull tribe to develop a Bear Hills travel center and convenience store, $810,000 to Siksika Nation to develop a business resource center, and $1 million to the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology to develop a geographic information system platform to help Indigenous communities with consultations on land use.
What I can say about the projects of national interest is that it's fundamental for our government to make sure that First Nations, Indigenous peoples have an equity share in those projects, and that the projects that are going ahead have the consent of, full, free, informed consent of Indigenous peoples.
The Rural Routes to Climate Solutions Society will also receive almost $500,000 to help the Blackfoot Confederacy to learn about regenerative agricultural practices. The projects are expected to create 370 jobs in Alberta. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal is ordering Canada back to the negotiation table on long-term reform of the child welfare system. Talks have been at an impasse since chiefs in the Assembly voted down a $47.8 billion proposal from Canada in October of 2024. In February of this year, First Nations in Ontario and Canada reached a $8.5 billion agreement on child welfare reform, but Canada has refused to consult with other interested parties. Our APTN reporter T.R. Wheatley has the latest.
The future of any package on long-term reform of the First Nations child welfare system has been at a standstill for almost a year. But in a ruling dated August 20th, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal says it is time for swift action. Canada has been urging the CHRT to approve a deal it reached with the chiefs of Ontario and Anishinaabe Nation in February. The federal government believes that $8.5 billion deal could help negotiations on a national level. However, the tribunal disagrees and is directing the feds to proceed on both the Ontario Agreement and the national long-term reform. The tribunal is urging Canada to return to the table of negotiations to listen to the National Children's Chief Commission, the Assembly of First Nations, and the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society in order to avoid the possibility of an imposed final solution. The tribunal has given Canada until August 29th to decide whether it will begin negotiations. Should Canada refuse to return to the table, the tribunal says it will hear the co-complainant solutions and choose between the long-term reform requests. The tribunal wants to see a comprehensive national long-term reform plan on child welfare submitted within 4 months. Caring Society Executive Director Cindy Blackstock said they were still reviewing the decision, but welcomed the tribunal's recognition of the National Children's Chiefs Commission. Blackstock says in the meantime, Canada needs to stop wasting time and money and show it is serious about ending its discrimination by following the tribunal's orders and stop harming children. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has revealed the cost associated with searching a landfill north of the city of Winnipeg for the remains of 2 First Nation women. A feasibility study released in July of 2023 found the search at Prairie Green Landfill for Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron could cost between $84 million and $184 million. That same study said the search could take up to 3 years and that a successful outcome could not be guaranteed. The search at Prairie Green Landfill officially ended last month. Earlier this year, the remains of both Myron and Harris were located just months into the search. Kinew says the cost of the search was $18 million, far below the initial estimates. In a statement to APTN News, Kinew said, quote, "The search at Prairie Green Landfill included the highest standard of health and safety for the workers with trauma-informed mental health supports. Most importantly, the landfill search was successful in returning Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris home. The PCs and their new leaders should tell Manitobans why they put up billboard ads exaggerating the costs of the search by 10 times. We'll have more on this story tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. To Ontario now, where grief-filled loved ones gathered for a funeral for an 8-year-old boy killed by a stray bullet while he was in his home. Police are continuing the search for the suspect or suspects responsible. CTV's Angela Gimmel has more.
This small community centre was overflowing with mourners for the traditional ceremony to say goodbye to Javai Roy.
Today is going to be a very hard day for everyone. This is the day where we say see you later, and we're not going to be able to touch, smell, hear him.
His mother Holly is from the Wikwemkong unceded territory on Manitoulin Island. Family and friends, including many from Toronto, came to pay their respects and support the family.
Now she's surrounded by everybody, but come 6 months from now, it's when she really will need her community.
Cameras were not allowed to take footage of the traditional ceremony that included a feast, drumming, and sage burning. The funeral procession included local emergency services and Indigenous organizations. Despite the somber atmosphere, there were also calls for an end to gun violence and a demand for justice.
Gun violence needs to stop. And I think that I'm calling out all politicians, calling out the federal government, the provincial government. What are they going to do?
We need direct action, not politicians giving promises, open promises. If you want to help her, put the sign on the dotted line and help her.
A GoFundMe set up to help pay for funeral expenses for the family has now raised $28,000. The procession traveled to a cemetery within the territory. That's where loved ones said a heartfelt goodbye for now to Javai Roy, a young life cut short. Angela Gemmel, CTV News, Wikwemkong.
The Chiefs of Ontario held their second annual wellness conference on Wednesday. There was talk of safe housing and better infrastructure, but at a press conference in Toronto, Ontario Regional Chief Abram Benedict also had the economy on his mind, and more specifically, Ontario's Bill 5 and Ottawa's Bill C5. Both aim to speed up economic development. Chief Benedict said these political events impact the wellness of communities.
And so as we move forward, we see governments, again, scrabbling to consult with our communities, consult with our leadership. This morning I had an interview talking about the first 100 days of the Carney government, what that looks like. And they asked about what should have been done different. And what should have been done different is that when the government thought about introducing legislation to fast-track projects, the First Nation rights holders should have been at the table from day one and not after the fact.
We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A sad update from Manitoba. Mounties believe a Norwegian hiker who disappeared last week in the remote north was swept away in a fast-moving river. First Nation searchers believe Stephen Shatelvik may have tried to cross the Hayes River near York Factory in northeastern Manitoba. He earlier embarked on a multi-day excursion from Fort Severn in Ontario. Police say Hayes River is almost 2 kilometers wide with an extremely fast current. Authorities have been in touch with his family and the Norwegian Embassy in Ottawa. Officers and locals have been searching the area with drones, boats, and helicopters ever since he failed to arrive in York Factory on Friday, as expected. Hundreds of Red River Métis businesses will now be eligible for federal contracts set aside for Indigenous businesses. The changes comes as Canada officially recognizes the Manitoba Métis Federation's Red River Métis Business Directory as a trusted source for procurement opportunities. Through the procurement strategy for Indigenous business, the Government of Canada requires its departments to award at least 5% of the total value of their business contracts to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis majority-owned businesses. The goal is to even the playing field by limiting competition in an effort to advance economic reconciliation. Canada awarded roughly $1.2 billion in contracts to Indigenous businesses in the 2023-24 fiscal year. More than 850 businesses are on the Red River Métis Business Directory. CHRT says these businesses were underrepresented in the federal procurement program in the past.
When we look at it, we were not in there. 850 businesses were not entitled to be selected. So I think the minister upstairs, I'm very, very happy what this means to us, is 857 Métis businesses are guaranteed to be part of the opportunity. Now they could bid, they'll be accepted, their applications, their businesses are guaranteed a shoe-in to be, whether they are selected as the right business, that's a different question. But they will have a chance to bid for those grants and opportunities.
Métis Nation Saskatchewan is working on a supportive housing project to help people trying to escape gender-based violence. It's hoped the facility will bridge the gap between temporary emergency shelters and permanent homes. APTN video journalist Rachel May was at the groundbreaking ceremony.
We need to remember that our people, our citizens, are distinct and they're unique. And we cannot expect the colonial systems to continue to implement programs and services that are not for them.
MNS Minister of Health Beverly Fullerton attended the groundbreaking for a new 16-unit, 24-bed supportive housing facility for women, children, and 2S LGBTQIA+ people leaving abusive situations. The facility will offer 24-hour support workers and education and childcare services. Fullerton shared her own experiences leaving domestic violence and said this facility will give survivors a chance to rebuild their lives.
So with Métis Nation, it is absolutely amazing that we can actually address the issues and then wrap our citizens around the love and care and respect that they deserve.
MNS President Glenn McCallum says these projects are about bringing government partners together to better serve people who need help most.
And that's why it's so important with the people that are here from the province and the federal government to be able to work together, plan out strategies and programs that can really work for our people so they're not stuck in that rut, so to speak.
Although no official date has been set, Fullerton and McCallum say the shelter is expected to open by fall 2026. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Over the weekend, the Talicho government concluded their 20th anniversary celebrations with a Handgame tournament. Our APTN video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz has more.
The sound of drums and chanting filled the air as Talicho citizens and other visiting First Nations took part in the 20th Talicho government's anniversary Handgames. Over the course of 3 days, 48 teams went head-to-head to see who would come out on top at the Betchico Cultural Center. Each team had 9 players who took turns hiding objects in their hands while the other team guessed which hand the object is in, scoring a point for their team. After a predetermined amount of points is reached by a team, that team wins. Teams from all over Northwest and Yukon territories came to participate. On the final day, the room filled and seats were at max capacity, as spectators watched eagerly to see who would take home the grand prize. Finally, after 3 days of back-to-back matches, 2 teams from the Yellowknives Dene First Nation came out on top. Cizé Sangris and his team won first place, winning $30,000, while Brent Betsina and his team came in second, winning $20,000. Betsina, in his second-place speech, took the time to remember his roots, bringing out the spiritual aspect of Handgames.
And it brings goodness to my heart. See everybody once again, see old friends, make new friends. I felt really happy when I was moving my hand up in the air. Because last time I was hearing my late granny scream for me when I'm doing this. And last time I was in 2016, that's when I remember when she saw me play. So I'd like to say thank you for everybody, the coaches, the cheerleaders from White KDFN and everybody else.
Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website we ask, have you ever experienced racial profiling while shopping at a store? Your answers are yes or no. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/poll to have your say. We will have 2 guests from this year's Amazing Race Canada on the show next. We'll be right back. Must Cho for staying with us. St. John's 7, Charlottetown 17 and sunny there. Cartwright 13, Anujiwak 7 and rain. Quebec City 24, Gaspé 19 and sunny. Ottawa 26, Sault Ste. Marie 19. Thunder Bay 17, Wawa 18. Churchill sunny and 15, Thompson 17. Gimli 20, Winnipeg 22. North Battleford 20, Yorkton partly cloudy and 18. Uranium City 18, Stony Rapids 20 and sunny there. Sunny in Fort McMurray at 25, Peace River 21. Hot in Medicine Hat at 30, Calgary 26. Vancouver 19, Penticton 23. Sandspit 13, Prince Rupert 16 and showers. Beaver Creek 9, Whitehorse 14. 12 in Fort Simpson and showers there, Wati 17 and rain. Sax Harbor 6, Pawlatuck 10 and rain. Baker Lake 13 and sunny, Chesterfield 13. And Iqaluit 5, Iqaluit 6 and sunny. A warning about our next interview that there will be spoilers ahead for anyone who didn't watch last Tuesday's Amazing Race Canada episode. Rebecca Morasti and Rebecca Watt, the Amazing Race Canada's first all-female Indigenous team, have been eliminated in the latest episode. We were able to speak with them earlier about their overall experience and what it was like representing the North. Tanse, Rebecca and Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. First off, we want to congratulate you both for making it to the top 7 teams on Amazing Race Canada. Definitely not an easy feat. Unfortunately, you were both eliminated on last Tuesday's episode. Can you tell us how you're both feeling about the loss and what it meant to be on the show?
Feeling a little sad, but also just happy that we can share the news with everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. And obviously, we're just happy that we were able to have this opportunity to be that representation we didn't have as kids. So it's really important at the end of the day, and we're just happy that we made it as far as we did.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. Amazing Race Canada took contestants to the furthest north in its history this season in episode 4. All of you got to visit Inuvik and Tuktoyaktuk in the Northwest Territories. As Indigenous women of the North, did you feel you both had an advantage during those challenges?
100%. I was so excited to be able to go back to my home territory. And I think all of the challenges, I feel like we all had an advantage in that, like the traditional food eating challenge, which wasn't a challenge at all. I was just like, finally, just sitting at a table that I feel comfortable eating again, like being urban natives that we are now. It's nice to get back to the land and eat that traditional food again. So it was just honestly amazing. And just to be outside, like we were really in our element there, I feel.
Yeah, the weather definitely didn't bother us at all. Just growing up where we grew up, we were so used to it, whereas everyone was absolutely frozen, but we're like, this is nice out.
This is like spring.
Yeah.
This is short weather. Yeah.
We were outside in our t-shirts.
Yeah, no, that's funny. This season there was a new record of 3 Indigenous teams. Throughout your time on the show, what did it feel like to be one of those teams and to be a part of that record-breaking representation on primetime television?
A huge honor, big shoes to fill, but I think we were ready.
No, that's great to hear. And another record that you didn't know you broke until you were actually on the show is that you were the first all-female Indigenous team. Can you tell us how you felt when you found out and what it meant to both of you?
Yeah, I guess we were both kind of surprised when we found out. We're like, what? Wait. I'm like, oh, I guess we are. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's honestly huge, a huge honor. I hope we did people proud, and I hope people are, like we tried our best, and I think that was it. And the biggest thing was that we wanted to go into this with a smile on our faces and just, doing the best that we can to represent our people and our communities.
As you both were competing throughout the show, can you tell us a little bit about who your, people of support, the people in your corner, who were you on the phone with or contacting in the evenings just to get you through each week?
We could only talk to each other. They took all of our outside connections away, no phone, no internet, nothing. So, but prior to leaving, we definitely had the support of our family and our community, and just, for the people that we could only tell, people were very, very excited. But yeah, behind us, we knew we had a large community of support.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Finally, what do you think this experience has taught you about yourselves, and what advice would you give to future Indigenous contestants who want to get on Amazing Race Canada?
I'd say if you want to get on the Amazing Race Canada, bring a ton of energy, completely be yourselves, as goofy or silly or as serious or as competitive as that is. Just really showcase that in your audition tape. And as far as learning about myself, I don't know. I feel like we're so resilient, and we knew that coming into this, and her story's always inspiring me. So,
absolutely. And honestly, if anybody just has interest in doing it, just do it, because you can. Simple.
You can't lose in that one, hey? Yeah, if you join up. Rebecca and Rebecca will have to leave it there. Thank you both for speaking with us, and you have made us all proud for all of your work on the show, and we wish you all the best on your journey ahead.
Masi, thank you.
And that's your daytime newscast. Dennis Ward is back with your evening newscast in a few hours, including a new segment of Truth in Politics. And we will take you to a white coat ceremony in Winnipeg, where there are almost a dozen Indigenous students taking their pledge to become doctors. Please join us then. Kwana, hai hai miigwech. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.